Heading into York city centre, in the Clifton part of York. Not a part of York I know terribly well. So this is on the northern side of the city. And this road is, it's Shipton Road. And forms the A19, goes all the way up to Teesside and then on to Newcastle. And you can tell we're approaching the walls because of the big queue of traffic. That's one thing I think York still struggles with. Its bypass is completely inadequate because most of it's single carriageway, but of course York's a city people want to come to. And they've got very, very good park and ride arrangements. Got 3 or 4 sites dotted around the city for park and ride, but it's still a place people need to come through and round. And of course the very oldest part of the city is sort of almost free of traffic, or traffic is heavily restricted. So you get these sections where you funnel the traffic down, and there's lots of queues like this, lots of delays. We're getting a little bit of a glimpse of the Minster. This is normally one of my favourite parts of York, the square outside York Art Gallery. It's a bit of a mess at the moment because there's so much roadworks going on. There's various vehicles parked here, which rather spoils the view. But the pigeons are thoroughly enjoying the pigeon lido that's been provided for them. Thoroughly enjoying that. Not sure whether the art gallery and the museum's open. It's obviously not open at the moment. It might be open a bit later on. So this is the King's Manor. So it tells us a little bit about the King's Manor. Quite an important centre. At one stage, in effect, headquarters of the government of the north of England, and is since 1963 part of the University of York. And my particular remembrances of coming here were to come here for tutorials in connection with the compulsory Middle English course, which I think was my second term at university. I used to come here once a week, or maybe a couple of times a week, and I always used to thoroughly enjoy coming here. So it's a little bit of a walk from the campus, but I used to come here for my tutorials, and I think they concluded about 12:15 or 1:15, and then I'd go for lunch. Lunch in the refectory here. So quite nice. Very, very old buildings, and I think now it's still used by the university. I think it's sort of archaeology and medieval studies are based here, amongst other things. So I just finally got across the road at Warngate Bar, and that's the Barbican at Warngate. And that's the only bar, the only gateway in York which has still got its whole Barbican. And 30 or 40 years ago, the traffic was still going through the middle there. That's all been blocked off, and they have to go around the other side. There's Jenny's Fish and Chips. Used to be Jimmy's Fish and Chips. So in my university days, that was popular for a bag of chips on the way back to the university. And then when Pamela and I came here on our honeymoon, we went there and we got sausage and chips and walked along and ate them by the wall. Now don't say I'm not an old romantic. It's the Rose and Crown. We'll just head a little bit along this road. This is the Hull Road, and then if I remember rightly, because it's 40 years since I first came to York and the university, if I remember rightly, there's a cut through by St Lawrence's Church which will appear on the right hand side in a moment or two. And St Lawrence's Church, one of these churches I must have walked by scores and scores of times, never ever been in. So they're obviously still open for business, which is good. There we go. So St Lawrence's, yeah, so one or two things on the go there. So we'll walk up the cut through this way, and this should bring us up to Heslington Road. But I've never been in the church here. There's this strange tower that stands in the grounds. Never really understood what that is. It's like so many things in York, you find these remains of older buildings, all sorts of things, whether that was a chantry chapel in the past or part of the original church, I don't know. And then you get the odd tomb. And then St Lawrence's is absolutely ginormous. It's a huge church. My guess would be, but I don't know, my guess would be it's one of these churches that was built in the mid 19th century as part of the big sort of church or church revival, Church of England revival, when there was a lot of 19th century churches built to house or support the growing sort of urban populations. But it's very bright in the sunshine. So I always think of St Lawrence's as being incredibly dark and gloomy. Saying that in the sunshine it looks lovely, and there's that strange tower building which stands sort of on its own in a different orientation from the church. So no idea what that is. Yeah. You could put something in for next week. I'll make our way through here, and then I think there's a little bit of, I don't know what I think of as social housing or something of that nature, some terraced housing. And then we should get back to Heslington Road. So just emerged onto Heslington Road, still enjoying this fantastic sunshine, and starting to head up the hill. I suppose it's about half a mile or so to the university, and there's one of the university sort of slightly separate halls of residence, Fairfax House, is just across the road here. We'll find that in a moment. Just watch for the cars coming down. Yeah, Fairfax House, I think, is on the right hand side. And I can only remember, mind you, it was a bit locked up and derelict. So that's interesting. So it is Fairfax House, but that looks like it's, well, the gate here is locked up and there aren't any cars, but that's a wonderful building. And I can only remember going in there once or twice. That there was one or two acquaintances, I suppose, from the English course who lived there. I remember going in there once or twice, but no more than that. Yeah, so don't know what's happening with that building. It was it's a very fine building, big old, I don't know what it was originally, big old mansion house or something of that nature. It was unusual in the sense that people from different colleges lived here rather than being in their own college. But it was about the only hall of residence where you paid your fee and it included breakfast. You had to cook breakfast every day. It was quite unusual. And a few years back I stayed here because in the summer you could stay here and they did bed and breakfast, and there were lovely rooms, big rooms, and very good breakfasts. But it's obviously something else now, though it still says University of York on the sign. So whether it's in use or not, I don't know. Or perhaps it's offices or something now. Now Heslington Road goes down the hill to the junction and turns to the right, and there is a cut through here. This building is the Retreat, which I think is still a place for people with mental health difficulties or learning disabilities. And I think I remember reading a little bit about the history of it. I think it's originally a Quaker foundation. Been here a long time, about a couple of 100 years now. So that's the Retreat, and then I think this is a newer part of the Retreat. And then as we head through here, I think some of this is university property, and then there's another sort of, well, there used to be an outlying hall of residence, which I think was called St Catherine's House or Catherine House, which is the building over on the left, which again is another one of these places I can only remember visiting once or twice in my time here. So I don't know whether that's been renamed, perhaps it's been renamed something, but yeah, it seems to have different names on it now. So that's the Retreat. So maybe is no longer university property and has been absorbed back into the Retreat, which makes sense. And this cut through, this private road, Heslington Road, goes down here, the old road. I know, well, more recently I think students are warned not to come down here, certainly at night. Personally, I can never remember any problems. We always came to and fro down this road. After we'd been out in York of an evening, whether it was coming back, and of course the pub's closed then at 10:30, coming back at about that sort of time, or indeed early in the morning on those very, very rare occasions we've been to a nightclub. Along here. So we've just come down the road past the biology buildings, and they're quite new biology buildings, relatively new. And this is, well, the start of Wentworth College. Quite different now. Head around this way. I think when my parents brought me here, we parked in the car park just on the left hand side, and then, well, the main college building is still up here. So this is now A block. This is all new. These residential blocks at Wentworth College have been rebuilt, but the main college building, which is directly ahead, college sort of centre, is still, as we'll see, it's different architecture. It's still very much the same. And what we'll do is we'll see if we can go in and get a cup of coffee. See if we can do that. And C block, where I lived, is now environment. So there we go. Wentworth College.